Hello, this is Prisma Lopez-Marin with 18 WJTS here on Monday with the conversations with the town manager, Chris James. Hello from Ferdinand.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
With all these, events happening, I was wondering if we can talk about one of the things that is coming up on second annual singer-songwriter event that's happening.
Well, that's an offshoot of the Ferdinand Folk Festival. This is the second year. Last year we had, I believe, 30 entries, 50 songs from all across the nation. We had submissions from literally New York City to California, coast to coast. And one of the 10 finalists actually came in from California, flew in special for the event. So that made us feel very good for the initial installment that we had that kind of impact, I guess you could say. And this year we've already received several entries. The application is available on our website, ferdinandfolkfestival.com. Click on there. We've got a special page lined up for it. Find out all of the particulars, how to submit songs, all of the rules and guidelines that have to be followed for that. It has to be original music, but log on, fill all of that out, submit it, and the application process runs through June. July we will have our cutoff process, and then we'll narrow it down to our 10 finalists, and then we'll have the actual event in August. And we have two categories. We kind of tweaked the name of it a little bit, but it's an 18 and under category, which we consider our high school grouping, and then we have the adult category, 18 and over. We'll have one winner per category, and whoever is judged as the overall winner will actually be, their grand prize, if you will, is a slot on the Folk Fest main stage. Last year they were the opening act. This year we've modified that a little bit. I believe they have the fourth slot, so they'll have a nice audience already gathered when they perform to give them a little bit more exposure and sort of a congratulations for being the overall winner. Whoever is the other category winner, they will play multiple sets on our market stage through the course of the day. So they both get additional exposure the day of. Our overall winner last year, Nick Pay, came out of Louisville. He did his opening set on the main stage and then also helped out on the market stage and with some other things through the course of the day. He was excited just to be there and to help out in any way possible. So we were glad to have him help out last year, and really looking forward to seeing who all will submit this year and if we'll have as far-flung a reach as we did. We're hoping to get more entries from the younger category. We had 2 in the 18 and unders last year. We would like to see that grow a little bit. And we're trying to get the word out more to all of the area schools because it's the Ferdinand Folk Fest. I think some felt it's just for Forest Park, and that's not the case. It's open to any student, not just Du Bois County, but all around the region. If they want to submit some of their songs, they're more than welcome to do so.
Good. And with that, is there, in terms of people being involved, the people who have submitted in the past, do they still come and go to the festival, or do they still participate even if they didn't get selected?
Some, I think, did show up just because they like coming to the folk festival. And that's a lot of it, that we've got such a brand image with the folk festival, and some of these individuals who had submitted, they were aware of the Folk Fest by itself. And then when we established the singer-songwriter competition, that gave them a little bit more buy-in to participate. And there were a lot that were there to support Nick and Haley Payne, who was our youth winner last year. They came just to kind of root them on. Our California performer didn't make it back just because of the traveling situation, but we had several of our more local applicants. They were there at last year's Folk Fest just to kind of take in the day and to support the folks that did win in each category. So we look forward to seeing that again this year as well.
Good, absolutely. And since it's a very community type of event, I'm sure that's why it was very supportive. I guess another thing that's going on is the Du Bois County leadership. Can you talk about that?
Well, this is our 6th year for the Leadership Academy. We are in process. We've had our initial opening session, which has been moderated every year but one by Tanya Brothers Bridge. She is an ideal table setter for this event. With her background and her skill and ability, she is a perfect person to have host that first session, kind of lay the groundwork for what the participants can expect. What's the difference between management and leadership? And some of the differences are splitting hairs literally, but others, there's a wide range of description for both. She also helps to guide them with the initial choosing of their capstone project, and then she serves as the capstone coach. So once the teams have been set, they then pick a spokesperson out of each group to remain in contact with Tanya throughout the process. And once they come up with their idea, they bounce the suggestion off of her and say, this is what we're looking to do. And she's very good at asking the why and the how come and the what about questions, really to probe deep in, not so much a negative critique, but more constructive. You know, how can you narrow the focus if it's a very broad idea? How can you narrow that down into a feasible, doable project? And at the same time, if it's something that can literally be done next week, how can you broaden that to have more of an impact? She's very good at that, so she'll be helping out. We've had our initial session. Our next session is actually Wednesday, April 27th over at the Huntingburg Event Center, and we will have 3 more regular sessions to follow in Jasper, then back in Huntingburg and Ferdinand, and then we'll have our graduation ceremony in the C10 building at VUJ on, I think it's Thursday, August 13th. So the teams will have the course of the summer both in the actual sessions where they'll get a sampling of a lot of different things on how to government issues, civic responsibilities, philanthropy, how things work in the county. We bring in, literally on Government Day, individuals that hold a whole host of offices, some that folks don't even realize are elected positions. Find out, why do you do this work? Why did you want to be involved? We bring them in, and it really expands the box, if you will, for all of our class participants in terms of their experiences. They're very good at what they do. We're trying to take them outside of that. Teamwork, networking, marketing, let them, because they're teamed up with people that maybe they wouldn't normally cross paths with, it's a chance to get different perspectives on why certain industry works the way it does, or how do processes go forward. And when the projects come about, if there is a government involvement, whether it's just from a council or a parks board or something of that nature, it lets them experience that firsthand, because they have to make sure that they make contact with the particular political people and to get on an agenda for a particular session so that they can pitch their idea, make sure there's buy-in from that community, because the goal is to have the class project be the initial basis of it, but then who takes it over for a longer term. We don't, if it's a one and done situation, that's okay, but we're looking for projects that have some sustainability. And once the class is done, who takes over that project? So they need to get buy-in from the local community, be it Jasper, Ferdinand, Huntingburg, or if it's a county project, from the county itself. They need to find that next step in the process of overseeing everything.
So it's a lot of protocol, and it is a lot of session learning and training, and also team building in its own perspective. Do you know, I know it's pretty early in the sessions, but do you have any ideas of what they're thinking about, or are there any ideas from last year that kind of resemble this year's?
Some of the ideas brought up from year to year are sort of general examples. What about this project or that project? The dog park that has been developed in Jasper came up a couple of years ago out of a Leadership Academy. We had a bicycle sharing program in Huntingburg that was a project from the Academy. The Leadership Academy itself was the focus of a project last year, how better to get our word out to all of the human resource folks in the county, because we had our core group where we could get the word out, but we weren't reaching the decision makers in the different companies, the ones who know who the employees are, that are, whether they have manager in their title or not, that maybe they are someone to be groomed for that position within the company, or they're just sort of the go-to person on a production line. If there's an issue, instead of going to a foreman or a supervisor first, they go to you and say, what do we do about this? And then work it up the chain of command. And the HR people, they know who these people are, the leaders, the titled or untitled leaders, and they realize that this would be a good fit for them. So we wanted to get the word out to those people to expand the Leadership Academy's, I guess, word of mouth a little bit more, make us more known, more visible, so we can bring in new people, maybe some folks from companies that haven't participated in the past as a way to bring them in. And we saw a little bit better outreach this year. We've got a dozen candidates, 6 men and 6 women. Their hometowns are throughout the county. They're based mainly Huntingburg, Jasper, and Ferdinand, but that's not a prerequisite that we only accept from this place or that place. Wherever the applicant comes from is perfectly fine. But we've had that initial session. Most of the teams, once we have announced the teams and the pairings, let them know who you're slotted with, they can start working on their after-school part of the get-togethers. We have our actual meetings, our sessions, and at the end of each session, there's usually a bit of time allotted where they can meet together and go over some of the things. Where are we at with this or that, as they sort of diversify who does what parts of the project. And then they have a lot of after-class time where they set up meetings and they can do it, you know, as a conference call, do it as everybody gets together and meets at a certain location and talk about it. But they have those extra sessions to get the word together, figure out, okay, here's our project, you're taking care of this, I've got that part, and figure out who does what and keep the process moving forward so they don't fall too far behind, keep it on track and ready for graduation night.
And how does this benefit the community in general?
We hope that the projects that come about have impact on the community. Probably the biggest one in recent years are the emergency call boxes set up along the Riverwalk in Jasper. That came about, and that's one where we use that as a great example, but as a cautionary tale, because the team came up with the project and started the work really before they got the official buy-in from the community. The city of Jasper wasn't going to say no to it, but there were a lot of hoops that had to be jumped through, both from the city standpoint and from the phone company standpoint, to make sure the wiring of the boxes was set up and everything was functional. So that's where we really encourage them, if you have a project that requires permission from a government agency of some kind, get that first, then move forward. It took it probably an extra year to get everything put together before the call boxes were up and functional. But that's a sort of an ideal circumstance. Another project from some of the early years were sort of a kiosk map of the community showing you where points of interest are. And from a tourism standpoint, to really, when folks come into the community, they think, well, what can we do today? And they can find one of these kiosks at city parks or on the squares or whatever, and they can see where points of interest are, and then can kind of plot their day from there. So we're trying to make it user-friendly for the local folks, but also from visitors who come into the community.
And that's very important for everybody to be informed, especially those who are living here, who are staying here, but then those who are, like you said, those who are visitors and who just would like to have that experience of Ferdinand and of the general area.
Definitely. And there's some folks who have lived here their whole lives that aren't aware of certain features of the county. And that's not a slight to where they grew up or what that feature is. It's just it wasn't within their normal line of vision. But it makes it more noticeable to them, and they thought, well, I'll go visit this. And all of a sudden, it's opened up another avenue to them to explore other things. It gets more outreach to that particular feature and expands its growth as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us with our conversations on Monday.
Well, thank you very much, Prisma.
And thank you for joining us. This has been Prisma Lopez-Marin with WJTS.